Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, and I am not joined by my side host, Sasha, today, but maybe just one degree of separation because I met Allison Beninato at Lit Fest, which is one of the amazing things that Sasha put together in Omaha. And Allison is my guest today. Welcome. Thank you for coming on with me.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. When you and I met at Lit Fest, I think there was just this immediate connection because we're both in the health and wellness field. And I heard a little bit about what you do. I didn't quite understand all of it. And so you and I had a really great conversation not that long ago where you explained exactly what it is you do. And then I was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to hear about this.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into that, but go ahead and just introduce yourself and we'll go into some of the really cool stuff that you have going on that I hope is going to maybe spark a fire for other people to get that going as well.
Yes. Well, thank you again for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation and spread the word about what I'm working on because it's very exciting and it's being received very well. And a lot of other people are excited about it too. So I'm very anxious to share with even more people. So yeah, Allison Beninato, and I have worked in Western medicine for 20 years. I've been in alternative medicine for 8 years. I have a degree in applied science and health information management systems. I'm a certified clinical herbalist, a certified natural health practitioner, and a in process of working on becoming a board certified naturopath. So basically, a lot of people will ask me, well, how did you go from 20 years of Western medicine to like this conversion, essentially kind of a little bit, or at least introductory over to alternative medicine? And honestly, it was out of sheer desperation. I was having Western medicine was all I knew. It was all I had worked and educated myself in. But I was having some health issues of my own that were getting no resolve from pharmaceuticals or from physicians. And so honestly, out of sheer desperation, I had sought out a herbalist, and I had gone to him quite honestly with a very high level of skepticism and a very low level of expectation. And over the next 3 years, to my surprise, he was able to help me with three completely unrelated health issues where Western medicine told me there's nothing we can do. You're just kind of sorry. And I didn't really want to accept that answer. And I'm a total open book. So if we have time, I'm happy to answer questions or elaborate on what my health things were. But for sake of time, I'm just glazing over it. And so, yeah, after I had seen him personally do that with plant medicine with me, my clinical mind was very curious and intrigued. And I just figured, okay, well, this isn't just woo-woo anecdotal nonsense. There's chemistry, there's science, there's history to this. And what is that? How did he know what plants to pick? How did this all come to be what it is? And why aren't we learning about it in other fields? And so I took a 3-year course, and that covered Ayurvedic, Native American medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, or flower essences, homeopathy. And that really just opened the can of worms for me. That was just the beginning of my education in this world. And now, like I said, I'm working on becoming a board certified naturopath. I still work with Western medicine. I still work with multiple providers every single day. And after I had gotten my initial certification as a certified clinical herbalist, and I was still working with these medical providers, they they felt comfortable with me. And so I kind of felt like one of them, and I didn't seem scary. And so they were like, "Oh, you're an herbalist. Well, can I refer patients to you, or do you know an alternative XYZ provider?" And then as I was meeting more and more of these alternative providers that were practicing different modalities, I would meet them and they would feel comfortable with me, and they would be like, "Oh, you work with medical providers. Well, do you know open-minded this medical provider, that medical provider?" So very quickly, I became this hub point for the two sides. And very quickly, also, I noticed that there was a massive demand to connect the two sides, but no one was supplying that demand. And the more conversations I had, the more I realized people wanted that connection and they wanted the merging or the bridging of that gap, but no one really knew how to create that. And so I basically took it upon myself, like, well, maybe this is happening to me, and maybe everything I've experienced and learned and, been exposed to in my education, everything up to this point was because I am supposed to try to design that. And so that's basically where the conception of Inspire Collaborative Health Association came to be. And it is the person only joint health association that bridges the healthcare gap between medical providers and alternative practitioners.
I love it. And we're going to go deep into exactly what that means and looks like. I do
Yeah.
want to circle back to a couple of things.
Yeah.
When you say you were in Western medicine for 20 years, can you tell us exactly what that looked like? What did you do?
Yeah. So basically, from the time that I could work, 15, 16 years old, I just started working in medical clinics. So I worked in 11 different fields of study. So this is ranging everything from cardiology to ophthalmology, optometry, dentistry, family practice, like you name it. The list goes on because I've worked in like 11 different fields of clinics. And so I was exposed to all those different approaches of medicines by those different trained doctors. I have sat through countless pharmaceutical rep lunches and been exposed to drugs and their side effects and how they're presented to doctors, just all the statistics and data, all of that as far as what my job role was, everything from, my training and my degree in school. I do everything from now, especially office management, billing, credentialing. I started obviously when I was much younger as reception, that kind of thing. But then I also got trained to be a medical assistant. I did phlebotomy. I assisted in nuclear stress tests. So I also did clinical sides of things as well.
It is so impressive. And I think somebody that has that very well-rounded background, right, where you have seen the ins and outs from multiple angles. I mean, that gives you such a great foundation to be able to be this hub, this person.
Yeah.
I would like to go into some of those health conditions that you had because one thing that when you and I first talked and you said after 3 years, and my brain immediately said, "Oh, nobody would give it 3 years." That's part of our problem, right?
Yeah.
With us as a society, and that Western medicine has this quick, immediate fix,
Yeah.
supposedly, and nobody generally wants to wait 3 years to feel better.
Sure.
So, let's talk about the conditions that you did experience and actually then what that really did look like in the span of those 3 years.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that I went to my herbalist was for anxiety and panic. I had severe anxiety and panic attacks to the point that I had developed agoraphobia, where you basically cannot leave your house at all. And it was debilitating. I had tried all the different like benzodiazepines, antidepressants, all those types of things. And they worked initially. I had done therapy, tried different therapists, therapy approaches. And yeah, those things seem to work a little bit, some things more than others, some for longer periods than others, some not at all, some had terrible side effects. Um, and it had just gotten to this boiling point where I didn't feel like I was living. I was just kind of merely surviving and just kind of I wasn't living at all. I couldn't even leave my house. So I was at this point where the medications that even at one point worked were now creating rebound effects, which is basically where what they're supposed to prevent, they create. And it was just becoming this kind of massive culmination of problem, and I felt very trapped and hopeless. And so again, like I said, out of sheer desperation, I was like, okay, there's no other medications I can try. There's no other kinds of therapies I can try. There's no other doctors I can go talk to. I might as well just try an herbalist. Like, let's see what he has to say. And I went to him and again, my skepticism was extremely high because this was very out of my comfort zone. And he looked at my tongue and he took my Chinese pulses. And I am thinking, like, what is this? What did I get myself into? And I was very honest with him up front. I was like, unless you can give me something as strong as what Xanax used to be for me, I don't think anything's going to help. And he was just like, okay, he just like took that piece of information and he made me a tincture. And for those that don't know what a tincture is, so you can take plants have medicinal properties, and you put them in different solutions or solvents basically that pull those constituents out of the plant. So usually some sort of alcohol or Everclear, glycerin, water, those different solvents pull out those different properties. And then you take it as a liquid. So you mix a lot of different plants. Everybody's tincture is a little bit different depending on what their need is. So he made a tincture and I took it, and it was very interesting for anybody that has taken comparatively for anybody that's ever taken a medication that treats anxiety. When you or for me personally, the way it felt was like I was anxious, and then I would take this medication and it would shove me violently into like, relax, you will relax now, at least initially when it first works. And herbs are not that way. There's not that violent shove. Herbs are much more gentle. They can still be very powerful, but they're much more gentle and just kind of lifting you and kind of carrying you to where you need to be. And so I would be sitting there and I would be like, I don't think I'm anxious. Am I anxious right now? I don't think I'm anxious. I feel pretty relaxed, I think. It was very subtle. And then you mostly noticed, especially when the contrast of it was gone and you no longer were taking the herbs, and you're like, okay, now I'm anxious again. Yes, I definitely was feeling relaxed and calm and at peace with those, when I was on those herbs. So that's how it started. So I also did other things in conjunction with that. I started doing breathing exercises. I started modifying my diet, cleaning up my diet, taking in less caffeine, less sugar. I also, around that time, I found out that I had a gluten sensitivity. So I eliminated gluten. So I always tell people now that health and sickness are both multidimensional. You can't fix one area of your health and expect that, like, oh, now I'm going to be healthy. Like I eat healthy. Oh, okay. What are you drinking? How are you sleeping? What are you breathing? What's your mental state? I mean, it's very, very multidimensional. So you have to look at it from, not just tunnel vision. And so that was the first thing that I went to him for. And I was just kind of like, okay, maybe got lucky. I didn't really think too much of it. I don't know why. I wasn't necessarily, it wasn't that I wasn't sold on it, but I was just like, okay, yeah, that helped, but it just, I don't know. So a little year about after that, I wanted to start a family. My husband and I wanted to start a family. And so I wanted to get off my birth control. So I got off my birth control. And immediately after I'd stopped my birth control, I started having ovarian cysts every single month, like clockwork. And they were painful and they were rupturing and they were landing me in the ER. And so I went to my gynecologist and I said, I'm having cysts every month. What can we do? And she said, well, I can put you on birth control. And I was like, well, that's not going to work because I got off birth control so I can have babies. And she's like, I could take your ovaries. And I'm like, also not an option because I want to have babies. And she's like, you can take Advil and Tylenol. And I'm like, that's it? Those are my options? She's like, yeah, you're just gonna have to deal with it. And I'm like, this could not be it. This can't be the end all be all of answers. And so I went back to the herbalist and I told him what was going on. He made a completely different tincture and I started taking it. The first month was kind of pretty much the same. The second month was better. The third month, they were almost pretty much gone. And by the fourth month, I wasn't having cysts anymore. And I got pregnant immediately. We were thankful enough and blessed enough to only have to try one time. And so that was the second thing. Well, then and again, time went by, got pregnant, I had my baby, everything started my family. And so about 3 or 4 months after I had my first daughter, I was starting to feel very fatigued and brain fog, and my memory just wasn't what it was. And I just thought, oh, this must be mommy brain that everybody talks about. And I went and talked to my doctor and we did some lab work and found out that the pregnancy had brought out Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune hypothyroidism, which is actually very common to come out after pregnancy or after puberty spikes of hormones anyways. And so I at that point was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go talk to an endocrinologist. And I probably sought out 6 to 8 different endocrinologists just to kind of like interview them to see which ones I liked and what they had to say and their different approaches. And pretty much all of them were like, we can't do anything for this. You're going to be on medication for the rest of your life, which was devastating for me to hear because I'm like, I'm a pretty healthy person. Like I really try to take care of myself. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll go see what the herbalist has to say. And I did try one prescription that one of the endocrinologists recommended, and I felt terrible on it. I had nothing but side effects. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to work because now I'm feeling worse. So I went back to the herbalist and here we go again. Looked at my tongue, took all my information, did all my, physical assessments of like, facial mapping, all these things that you do in herbalism and more natural alternative approaches for evaluation and trying to triangulate on where any deficiencies or excess is. And he made a new tincture and I started feeling better and I got my lab work done and my numbers were returning all back to normal and eventually did return back to complete normal. And I'm like, okay, so now we even have lab work. Like this isn't just like something in my head where it was placebo effect. Like I have paperwork that shows that I was hypothyroid and now I'm not. So I didn't just think myself into this. And so then that was basically where I was like, okay, now I need to go to class and learn about this.
That all of that is amazing. And I know that many people listening are like, oh my gosh, that sounds like me. Oh my gosh, I had that experience. So thank you for sharing all of that because I
Yeah.
think it is helpful for people to really understand that you really did. You kept going back to Western medicine,
Yeah, and I
right?
still do, like, with the association, I try to make it very, very clear, like, I am not team one or the other. I really do ride this kind of rare middle line and I think there's a shift starting to happen, but I really do believe that there's strengths and weaknesses to both sides and pros and cons to both sides, so why wouldn't you utilize the best of both worlds? That's my take on it.
Right. And I can tell you one reason people won't is because insurance doesn't cover alternative medicine. And I hear that, I talk to thousands of people a year, but my insurance won't cover it is hands down the most popular answer I get.
Yeah.
And so there it is, right? And
Yeah.
and unfortunately you and I can't change what insurance does or doesn't cover.
Right.
So the way I try to present it is this is an investment in your health.
Right.
You can continue to go down a road that is not working
Mhm.
or, and obviously everybody's budget is the budget.
Right.
But maybe we're spending a lot of time and money by not feeling good, by chasing, the solution to these symptoms. And if we devoted some of it to really figuring out the problem, we would save all that time and money later. Now, all that being said, absolutely, there is a role for both, as you're saying. So let's talk about how to actually bridge that gap, maybe
Yeah.
in the consumer's mind, but
Mhm.
also in the practitioner's minds.
Yeah. So you're right. As far with regard to the insurance thing, who knows if and when that will ever change. The insurance world is what it is. So I can understand that, people cannot always afford things that aren't covered by their insurance. But yeah, it really comes down to, you know, we kind of budget and make time and efforts and stuff towards things that we're really passionate about. So it really just comes down to where is it on your priorities, right? If you're really, really passionate about wanting to address your health concerns in a natural form, well, there's a will, there's a way. People find a way to make it work. They find a way to, you know, save that money or, find a practitioner that's willing to work with them, whatever the options are. So yeah, I can relate to that because it does. It all adds up and we're living in a very, very expensive time. And I agree with you. I think that it's very much you can either put the expense up front or you're going to put it at the end. There was a saying that was, you can either pay for health now or you can pay for illness later.
Yeah.
So it's, unfortunately, it's just a choice. But, and then, sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Well, I think also, bridging the gap in the consumer's mind. And
Yeah.
I do believe that many people that I talk to, if money was not an issue, they would seek out as many options as they possibly could. Now, some will forever believe that that is just voodoo nonsense. And why would I ever go? This person went to medical school and they got board certified and this and that. That's who I'm going to go with. Maybe at some point, they have an experience like yours or they get their
Yeah.
minds changed. But I do think for a lot of people, it's the financial and it's who to trust. Maybe
Right.
you got lucky with the herbalist you randomly picked,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot out there that,
Sure.
eh, and the fact that these things don't have a quick fix.
Right.
Where
Right.
Western medicine likes to pretend that we have a quick fix. We all
Yeah.
know that that is a Band-Aid. It is not
Yes.
you're not fixing a problem,
Yeah.
you're putting a Band-Aid on it.
Sure. You're treating a symptom, you're not getting to the root cause of the problem. So the problem will resurface again, in addition to the potential side effects or anything. Then maybe you won't have side effects, maybe you won't. I am not team one or the other. I am not out here promoting or saying don't ever take this medication or that medication or anything like that, because medications are extremely valuable and we need them. Um, I think again, it very comes back down to the individual and the individual's preference and what they're looking for. Some people are like, I am happy the way I am. I'm not changing any aspect of my life. Just give me a pill and I'm going to go with that. And that's totally fine. There's no shame in that. That's what works for you. And those are your wishes. And that's perfect. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And other people want to figure out the root cause and understand what's fueling that, and that's great for them, and everybody just needs to go their own way. So you're right, the Western world, we all know that these medical providers have gone to school for a very long time, paid a lot of money, done their boards, their CEUs, had to get licenses, all of these things to prove their knowledge, and they are very intelligent because of that, and they have a lot to offer and a lot to bring to the table. And so this is, again, I am not discounting them at all. They are extremely valuable and they are a part of this association because I see their value and I see their intelligence and I see their purpose. I mean, these people went to med school because they wanted to help people. So, some people might argue, well, like, oh, not all doctors are good. Well, that's the case in anything. I mean, there's bad electricians, there's bad plumbers. I mean, there's people that are not necessarily good at their trade in every field or every walk of life. So again, these are broader statements, but overall, you don't go and lay that kind of money down and spend that much time on an education if you don't care about people. Um, so yeah, the association on the alternative side that brings the alternative people in, it is a little bit more the wild, wild west, right? Because there's not those same standards put in place for all of these different modalities the same way that there is for the Western education. So some alternative modalities have some requirements and some have absolutely none at all. And speaking from as a herbalist who actually chose to go to school and get an education, technically I could have just like woke up one day and been like, I like plants. I think I'll call myself an herbalist. And there's no law against that. And while that's fine, and that I'm glad that that person would have a passion and an interest in plants, that's not exactly the type of alternative practitioner that we want in this association. We want alternative practitioners that have taken, had the drive, had the initiative to go get an education, create a respectable business, and aren't going to be we won't have to be concerned about the liability of them saying some crazy claim like, oh, come do this one treatment and you can stop all your medications or something, completely irresponsible like that. These people are also well educated, very intelligent. They just chose the different path of healthcare and health. So yeah, there is an application process and a vetting process that happens for the practitioners and the providers that become a part of this association, to make sure that they are vetted not only in their education and experience, but also to make sure that they align with the ICHA vision and mission, which is to bridge that healthcare gap and try to remove some of these stigmas and gain respect for one another.
Well, I love it. In the time that we have left, let's talk about the association. If you can do like a Cliff Notes version of the presentation that you gave me a little while
Yeah.
ago, because I do want people to maybe they have a Western care provider that is open minded and they
Yeah,
can have a conversation, or maybe they know. I don't even like the word alternative because I think that means, ooh, weird, voodoo. No, it
sure.
is an alternative to what we have been presented
Sure. Yeah.
by our
Yeah.
young people, right? So, yeah, maybe they have somebody that they know that would like to be part of this organization to have that, common thread and kind of that solid base of credibility, because to know
Yeah.
they've been vetted by you, by your organization to be part of it, I think was probably a pretty big stamp of approval.
Yeah. Yeah. So if as far as, the presentation goes, it it's kind of the same for everybody, right? What the association stands for and what its purpose is. Again, to bridge the gap and gather these respectable medical providers that are open-minded and are going to be okay with their patients, that saying, "Hey, I don't want to jump right into a medication or surgery or something like that. I would like to try, some of these alternative, modalities to see if they work first." And they're going to say, "Okay," and they're going to respect that and be okay with it, not try to shame you for that. And the alternative practitioners as well acknowledge that maybe you already are on medications and that's what's appropriate for you, and they're not going to try to adjust your medications because that's outside their scope or outside of their skill set and lane. It's all about keeping everybody in their own lane for the sake of for safety, but also respect for the other people and the other professionals, and just making sure that, again, we're just taking what is right now a very one-dimensional healthcare approach and creating a multidimensional healthcare approach, because again, health and sickness are very multidimensional. So as far as that goes, how the process works is the association recruits and or gets referred medical providers or alternative practitioners that other medical providers or the community or practitioners feel like would fit in here. And we speak with them. They apply if they're interested in joining. They go through that vetting process. Once they are approved, they get put into our directory. The directory is secure online, meaning that it's secured by a passcode. Anybody can access the directory. The reason that there's a passcode on the directory is because when I was in the development stages of the association, I went out and did preliminary meetings with alternative practitioners and providers just to get their thoughts. Like, I don't want to waste my time or money. I don't want to waste anybody else's time or money. Do you think this is needed? And unanimously across the board, everybody was like, yes, feel create it. This is so needed. So that was great initial feedback. However, there was one provider in particular that I spoke with, and he had shared concerns with me that while he was very for it, his spouse, who was also a physician, and his colleagues who were physicians, um, think he's kind of nuts for thinking what he thinks. And so he said, I think you're going to have an uphill battle. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not trying to sell anything, and I'm not trying to sell or convert anybody of anything. I'm simply creating a solution for a problem that was already, or a demand that was already organically in motion. I just recognized it needed a solution. So I'm not going to those type of providers that aren't there yet or aren't interested in this. I'm going to people like yourself. So the directory having a passcode offers exclusivity. So for providers that are put in kind of precarious positions like that, or have people around them that are as supportive of that outlook, can feel like their name and their information is at least a little bit secure behind this wall. So their colleagues can maybe not just go find it on the internet and then harshly judge, like, oh, why are you on a list with a bunch of these type of alternative people? So again, it just offers that little bit of protection and security for them. Also for analytics, so that way we can see how often the directory is being utilized and used and how we're helping people. We also offer clinical liaison services. So if, say, for an example, someone goes to their medical provider and they say, well, I've got migraines, but I don't want to take a migraine medication. What are my options? Well, the medical provider is going to go, I don't really know what your other options are, but here I'm a part of this association. You can call and speak with their clinical liaison, and then they call us and we go through it with them. We talk to them. What is it that you're thinking that you'd like to try alternatively? If they don't know, we say, okay, let's talk, discuss what's happening. You've got migraines. Do you feel like this is a musculoskeletal issue? Do you think that you would like to try something physical like chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture? Do you think your migraines could possibly be related to food allergies? Okay, maybe we need to get you linked up with a, functional medicine provider or an immunologist to do some food allergy testing. Do you think this could be stress related? Do you need to talk to a therapist? Do you want to try something just natural, internal? We can get you linked up with a herbalist. Do you want to try something even lighter, like energy work, like Reiki or healing hand practitioner? And then after we kind of talk through, you get the point. That's, I just a few of them. And then after they say, yes, I'd like to try this provider or that practitioner, then we say, great, we have those listed in our directory. Go review the ones that we have and choose which one you feel like is best for you. So again, we don't play favorites to who's in the directory. It's completely up to what the patient or the client individual feels like is most appropriate for them. Again, the credible referral options, that is a huge selling point, I think. Selling, again, it's not a gimmick, but that is reassuring to people because people don't know, you're right. I did get lucky that I got a reputable herbalist. He could have been not good because, like I said, in every field, you could get a bad plumber, and you're just not going to know until you know, right? So, but that's no reason to write off all plumbers. You just go and try another one. So, this vetting process will hopefully help that. Providers. So, for the community right now, the two major benefits is access to the directory, access to the clinical liaison services. But we are in our infancy. The association did just roll out in the very last week of April of 2022. And so we are very young and we are evolving quickly, though, because so many people are interested in this. So we are actually, hopefully having some discussions with educational institutions that will as well offer some, material classes for the community if they're interested. And the providers or practitioners that join, they get more benefits. They actually get 9 different benefits for joining, in addition to the directory, the clinical liaison, the credible referrals. They also get a supportive network. They get access to our closed, secure network where you can speak with one another and discuss and introduce and network. You get a membership certificate. They get other classes and seminars to help broaden their full spectrum healthcare knowledge and understanding. We will also be setting up relationships with strategic partners or businesses that offer health related services and goods. So this will be like cryo and hydrotherapy, facilities, yoga, herbal shops, things like that, vitamin stores, all those types of places. We want to create relationships with those businesses as well. And as we create those relationships, there'll be perks and discounts that we would pass on to our members. Additionally, because it is a nonprofit, all of the donations or annual dues that are paid by the providers or practitioners are 100% tax deductible. So that's always very helpful at the end of the year during tax time because the goal is always to make it look like you didn't make much, and write-offs and things like that are always helpful. Those deductions are helpful for that. And then finally, every year we do want to have a semi-formal annual banquet where we really bring all of these members, the providers and practitioners together that are in this directory to come together, listen to some speakers, share in some good food and some good events, and really just get to see one another and what this movement is that's growing.
Well, Allison, I love the passion that you have taken to make something that I think I mean, I really do believe there is a big need for this. And
Yeah.
I know it's very young. I can't wait to see what happens in the next year or two. I have a feeling it's not going to be as small as it is now. And
Yes.
it's not that small already. You've already made
Yeah.
such big growth. So it's really impressive. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yes.
Is there anything before we officially sign off that we need to know that we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I'm just so excited. If anybody that's watching is a provider or practitioner yourself, please reach out to me. You can visit the website. It is www.inspirehealthassociation.com. There's contact information there. There is a Inspire Collaborative Health Association community page on Facebook that you can join. So you can find me. You can find me or contact me in any of those places. If you're interested in joining, I would love to have you a part of this movement. For those that are in the community wanting to utilize it, stick with us. Like, we are so brand new, but we have so much on the horizon. We've got providers and practitioners already in our directory. And this started here in Omaha, Nebraska. And the list that I started with had about 30 providers or practitioners, and it's now over 300 just in this state, and I'm getting a lot of names for other states. And so it's projected it will eventually be on a more national level. So the more we can get the word out there and get people in contact with this to let them know it's a thing, the faster it will grow out of its infancy. So yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have all the links in the show notes, so don't worry if you didn't get the website scribbled down, just check the
Yes.
show notes. We'll have them there.
Awesome.
And I really think that as I talk to people, and I've heard a lot of people tell me I'm afraid to tell my doctor that I'm
Mhm.
seeing so and so.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to us as patients and consumers as well to start being a little more vocal and
Yeah.
to share openly with our primary cares, our Western doctors, that we do seek alternative care as well.
Yes.
And maybe that's a way to just continue to bridge this gap. So, for all of you listening, maybe that's something you're ready to take on for yourself, because I
Yeah.
think the more we understand that we should all be building a team, and hopefully anybody in the wellness field, truly their desire is to help people be well, there
Yeah.
shouldn't be competition, right?
Right.
It really should be about collaboration. So I hope
Yes.
people really grab what you've done and run with it and help support your group. I certainly am a big fan and will continue to think about the people that I want to
Yeah.
introduce to the group. Everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope
Yes.
you got
Thank
a
you.
couple of great ideas here, and now you get to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.